Nice job, high five.
One shot, one kill. Ronnie did.
Now introducing your Budhole podcast, Scott, the Great Brandino, Gage's Rage, and Star Lamar.
What's up, girl?
I love the Budhole.
Who doesn't love the Budhole? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Budhole Mailbag for Week 6. This episode is brought to you by the great people over at Thrive Fantasy, where if you deposit a minimum of $20, maximum of $50, they'll match you dollar for dollar if you use promo code BUD over at thrivefantasy.com. It's also brought to you by the great people over at Shock Fantasy. Gage's Rage, why don't you tell everyone about Shock Fantasy?
Yeah, Shock Fantasy is a great fantasy website run by our boy Matt Harrison on the Mailbag a few weeks back. Pretty good Minnesota boy. They give you ratings on position rankings. They'll give you a overall DVOA rank. They give you the spread, so it's implied point total for which team is supposed to score how many points. Also gives you, daily fantasy player values, so it tells you who's valuable at what dollar amount. It's a great sports website if you're looking to bet on over-unders, daily fantasy sports, or if you're trying to hook it up with Thrive Fantasy, goes well together.
Also, to mention, since Gage's Rage started using Shock Fantasy to help formulate his studs and duds, he's gone from 36% to 41%. So obviously it's doing something.
This is true. He's gotten a lot better.
The improvement has been noticeable.
Still your lead, though, right now. 58% of the time, every time.
With that being said, do you guys want to get in and open up the mailbag?
Mailbag.
What's in
Mailbag.
Let's do it.
Question number. Oh, no. 0 positive COVID tests this week in the NFL. Is this a win for the NFL, boys? Of course it's a win. How big of a win?
Massive win. This is huge. I know how we feel about the COVID cancel culture, but for them to go ahead and have 0 positive tests.
You said it wrong.
Or 0 false positive tests, it's amazing for NFL. It's amazing for fans that want to go 2 games and watch their teams play. It's just amazing all the way around.
Brandon, how are you supposed to say it?
COVID cancel culture. That's how it's said. That's what it's all about right there. It's good, right? I got the update today. There's no positive test. No games are canceled. So everything's going to be played as normal. It's what everybody wants to see except for the big name companies. They don't really want to see it. A lot of announcers, I think, are looking to say, I told you so, more than just being happy that the games are being played. It's good. You see that the Colts had 8 false positive tests. You just kind of wonder how many other situations have been like that out there where maybe they weren't actually sick. But to get back on track, I think it's a good thing for the NFL. I'm glad to have all my teams playing this week in fantasy and not having to worry about maybe benching Adam Thielen and Alexander Mattison or Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I had a lot of players that were in the scare this week. So, I'm happy.
Yes, because if the NFL keeps Brandon's players active, all is well. Next question on the mailbag.
Because if they're active, I'll be 1-4.
Next question on the mailbag. Is Alexander Mattison a top 5 running back this week with Dalvin Cook out? We'll start with you, Gage.
That's a tough one. Top 5 is pretty elite numbers. You got to be, I'd say, at least over 20 points in a PPR league for top 5, possibly in that mid to high 20s. But I definitely see that being in the outcome possibilities. Atlanta's defense has been pretty suspect all year. And,
Hi, Tyler.
Minnesota loves to pound the rock. Mike Zimmer's a defensive-minded head coach. Gary Koobs is a run-first kind of guy. I think there is a possibility he does. I'll put it at 33%.
Brandon, what is your percentage on it?
For the guy. I thought you bled purple and gold just like me, but I guess not. Standard scoring, if you do that, he's a top 5 play this week. Half-point PPR, if you play that, he's a top 5 play this week. PPR, if you play that, he's top 6. He's stepping into Cook's role. Not as explosive as Cook, but he's going to see targets. He's involved in the screen game. He can run the rock. I think I'll double check, but I think they're ranked like 31st against the run, 26 against the run. They'll up 30 points to the position. I think Alexander Madison can put up over 20 of those points.
Yeah, he's actually my stud for running back this week, so I think I would probably rank him a top 5. We'll get into that when I talk about him, though, in the studs and duds. Next question up, dynasty question. Are you, if you're starting a dynasty team today, are you more in on CeeDee Lamb or DK Metcalf? Gage, I know we talked about it on the podcast this past week. We got in a big debate about DK Metcalf 101. We won't get into that debate on here, but I am curious overall if you guys are more interested in CeeDee Lamb or DK Metcalf in dynasty. Brandon?
It's got to be DK. Easy. I mean, we argued that he was the number 1 pick overall in dynasty on the podcast last week. He's one of the best players, young players at his position. He's a freak of nature. He's getting better and better. He's got Russell Wilson for, possibly another 8 years if they can stick together. Even if he goes somewhere else, he's going to have a quarterback that's going to be able to get him the ball, I believe. So good wide receivers are going to flourish. He's going to flourish. If you can get him in dynasty, get him. I take him over CD.
Gage?
Yeah, I was going to just point out, I didn't say that DK wasn't a great player. I just said at 101, I would take a running back personally first when I'm building my dynasty.
Is that what you said?
That being said, DK,
you know what? People go back and listen to my
player
episode to see if Gage actually said that.
DK is absolutely very talented. DK is an excellent receiver with an excellent position. Overall, like with the right team and the right concept and unlimited Russ throwing him the ball. That's a good combo. I'll take the wide receiver 1 that's a freak athlete over a very good athlete that is buried on the depth chart behind some other talented receivers in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb.
For me, I think I'm going DK as well, but CeeDee Lamb's he's no slouch. I would argue he looks like the best. He looks like the best wide receiver on the field for Dallas when they play. And that's with Amari Cooper on the field, Michael Gallup. They're both very good players. So CeeDee Lamb's no joke, but DK Metcalf is, when you add him with Russell Wilson for the next, I'm going to say 6 to 10 years for sure, DK Metcalf's the guy to go for. Next question up. Who should I start this week in a PPR, Boyd or Claypool? I'll start here, and I'm going to say Claypool with Deontay Johnson out. I'm riding the Claypool train, but Tyler Boyd's got a tough matchup. He is obviously going to probably get more looks from Burrow, though. Claypool is just a very volatile player, but I do think his upside is worth taking another chance on this week, as it paid off for you last week. Ride the hot hand. Go with Claypool. What do you guys think?
I'm in the same boat. Claypool, I picked him up in Dynasty because he's a stud. Surprised he wasn't drafted. I got extremely lucky, got him in free agency. But he showed last week why he was he a second-round pick, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
He's a very good player. He's had 2 weeks over 17 points now in full-point PPR. He also has an amazing matchup, especially with Deontay Johnson out this week. Claypool pulls the Cleveland Browns, who are 31st against the pass. They're letting up 46 points to the wide receiver position. A lot of those are going to go to Juju and Claypool. Now, Tyler Boyd, if you need to start him, if he's on your team, if you have both of them, start Claypool. If you have Boyd, he's probably a start. I mean, he's facing the Colts, which is going to be a tougher team. Joe Burrow, that's a tough matchup for him. We showed last week that against the Ravens that he can definitely put up a dud, and that just affects everybody else around him. So Boyd he's a dicey play. If you have him and you got guys on bye, I'd play him, but I would not expect a 20-point week out of him.
I think that you might be chasing fool's gold with Claypool here. He did hit the 4-touchdown game last week, which was absolutely explosive. But Pittsburgh is they have a pretty tough matchup this week going up against Indianapolis. They don't allow a lot of points. That defense has been pretty solid. Is that just against a certain position type, Scott? Or
Are you talking?
No, they're playing Cleveland.
oh, I'm mixing it up. My bad.
Boyd is playing the Colts.
Yeah.
Boyd playing the Colts.
Yep.
Yep. That makes the decision extra tough, actually. So I would probably favor Boyd myself. I'm not into the stat chasing. I don't want to be the one holding the bag when Claypool puts up another 6 or 8 point performance versus the, what was it, probably 30 something you got last week with the 4 TDs.
It was over 40.
Yeah, that was. I think it's just going to come back to Juju or one of their studs instead of the wide receiver too.
Remember, though, regarding this, with Deontay Johnson being out, Claypool has been kind of the Batman, or I'll say the Robin, so to speak, to Juju Smith-Schuster's Batman when Deontay Johnson's been out. And it's been a few times this year already.
He's like Robin Hood. I mean, he's stealing the points away from the King Juju.
I was about to say, I've been pretty vocal about Juju needing to be the Robin type instead of that Batman because I think he performs better in a wide receiver 2 spot.
So Claypool's Batman. I like it.
Look for Greedy Williams to be all over Claypool and Juju to dominate in the slot.
We have a listener question. Did you answer, Scott? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was first.
Okay.
Yep.
Listener question coming from Tyler. Is Scary Terry a start versus the Giants?
I would start him. I don't care who's throwing him the football. It could be Dwayne Haskins' injury that they've been holding him out for secretly. It could be Alex Smith on one leg. It could be a healthy Kyle Allen. It doesn't matter. Scary Terry he's a start this week, and I'd start him.
Paige?
I like a healthy Kyle Allen. I think that changes the defense a little bit. I think Scary Terry is actually going to see some ups in production with Kyle Allen at quarterback. Give me Scary Terry this week against the Giants.
If you have him, you got to start him. I have him in my league, and it's between him and Hollywood Brown every week, and it's tough, but Terry McLaurin is a better wide receiver. Hollywood has got high upside as well, but the only thing that makes me nervous about this week is he's holding at is it Bradbury? Is that who they signed? The cornerback for the Giants who's been playing pretty well. Shut down Amari Cooper last week, but outside of Gibson, who's starting to come into this role, really the only viable player they have on offense is Terry McLaurin. And when that's your guy, you feed him the ball, and you find a way to get him the ball. And he's still wide receiver 16 with Haskins throwing him the ball. And a dud week last week. So, yeah, Scary Terry, he's a must start.
At a minimum in the flex. I mean, come on.
If you're playing him in like an 8-team league or something, or a 10-team league, and you have like DeAndre Hopkins, Thielen, and Michael Thomas, then maybe you sit him. But most people in 10, 12-team leagues, you're starting Terry McLaurin.
We won't talk about 8-team leagues. They're a whole ball of their own. Next question up. Trade. Are you on the side of Amari Cooper in the trade or Deebo Samuel and Chase Edmonds in the 0.5 PPR league? Which side would you want? We'll start with you, Gage.
Yearly draft? Or
yearly, not dynasty, yearly.
In a yearly, I could definitely see this trade working out for the Deebo and Chase Edmonds owner that's receiving them in the long term. But as of right now, I'd probably stick with the Amari Cooper side. Now, if Kenyon Drake was to put up another dud performance and maybe Chase Edmonds starts to get some more opportunity, that could work out. I just don't know how long that's going to take. Kenyon Drake I think he's on his last year in Arizona. They don't guarantee him a long-term contract.
He just got a contract at the beginning of the year, I think. Might have been a 3 or 4 year deal.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess maybe his long-term option, and they don't see a way of getting him out of the production early this year or at all this year. So give me Amari Cooper.
Myself, I am going to go long-term. It also depends on your roster. If you're the Amari Cooper owner and you're 3-1, yeah, I would go with the Deebo and Chase Edmonds. I like their long-term output. I think that with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back, last week was bad, but he's going to step it back up. He's going to be able to play competently. He's not going to be a top 5 quarterback play, but he's going to be able to get Debo the ball. So with Debo getting Jimmy G back and Chase Edmonds getting 12 yards a carry last week, and he's outscoring Kenyon Drake so far this year on a third of the touches, I like Chase Edmonds. I think eventually the players performing are going to step in. They're going to come in, they're going to get their chances, and you're going to see Kenyon Drake's share start to go down and Edmonds' share go up. It might go to more of a 50-50 instead of a 66-33. So give me Debo and Chase.
Really quick, you guys just had a little bit of a back and forth on it. Kenyon Drake's on a 1-year contract.
Is it? I thought it was like a 3 or 4 year deal.
No, it's a 1 year, $8.5 million, according to Sport Track. So with Kenyon Drake with them not being tied to Kenyon Drake for the long term, give me Debo Samuel and Chase Edmonds. I think Chase Edmonds is the better running back between the two. And I think in a fantasy world right now where running backs are hard to come by, to get a guy that could possibly be a top 10 fantasy back rest of the season, if it does come to turn around his way and they start feeding him the ball instead of Kenyon Drake, give me that upside. Give me the Debo and Chase Edmonds side of this. Next question up.
Whoa. You guys don't see them absolutely pounding the wheels off Kenyon Drake if he's on his last year in the deal?
They've been trying to. It just hasn't been working.
He's not effective, yeah.
Chase Edmonds was also a very effective backup behind David Johnson. What do? They went out and traded for Kenyon Drake instead of giving their guy the ball.
Well, they probably didn't think that Chase Edmonds was their long-term number 1 guy. But if we're talking fantasy football this year, because we're not talking dynasty, we're talking just.
Oh, yeah. Next year, I definitely see Chase Edmonds probably being the starter if Kenyon Drake performs the way he does the rest of the season.
I see them drafting somebody.
They also still have Eno Benjamin, cat that's a short yardage guy, and behind Chase Edmonds. I think there is a plan for them to roll with something here. Give me Amari Cooper. I don't trust Chase Edmonds to get production this year.
We got a listener comment.
Yeah, right, Pat.
I can't look directly at that mullet. It makes me feel inferior as a man. Yeah, it makes most of us feel inferior as men. It's a thing of beauty.
Thank you, Joe.
It's like a 3-horned buck in the woods. Robert Tunyon or Dalton Schultz. Who do you guys like rest of season? We'll start with you, Brandon.
I hate saying it, but if you're looking for fantasy points, I think you're going to have to go Robert Tunyon for the rest of the season. He's got a better quarterback. They got Devontae Adams coming back, and they have Aaron Jones too. Those two guys are going to take some pressure off of him. He's not going to put up 3 touchdowns every week, but you can expect him to put up some points. I think he scored a touchdown in every game the last 4 weeks or last 3 weeks that he's played. So he's putting up points even without Devontae Adams there. With less pressure and a better quarterback, he's still going to produce highly. Not that Schultz is bad, and he might be able to step in and put up some good points for you, but we don't know what Dalton is yet. If Dalton is competent, it makes it a little bit closer, but without Dak, I'm going to take Robert Tunyon rest of the season. And I have to hide my purple pride.
That's really good logic, but I'm kind of curious with Devontae Adams coming back, how much production Robert Tunyon actually produces. It was definitely an opportunity seizer with Adams being injured along with their second option. I forget the guy's name. The white Alan Lazard. Yes, thank you. And I think MVS was also injured the game that he had 3 touchdowns.
He was playing that week. He might have went out during the game, but he was playing that week.
He was playing on an injury. He was hobbled.
Yeah.
MVS isn't that good to begin with.
Give me a quarterback coming into a system that's got a lot of options, a very explosive offense, a very solid running game, great offensive line. I'll take Dalton Schultz with the Red Rocket, looking for a safe outlet outside of the 3 awesome wide receivers they have out wide.
The question is, with their explosive offense, are they still going to be explosive with Andy Dalton instead of Dak?
Let's just put it this way. Dallas's defense is so bad they have no choice. They have to be. When Andy Dalton had a functional tight end in Cincinnati and Tyler Eifert, before Eifert would get hurt every 3rd game, Andy Dalton loves tight ends. Dalton Schultz, the biggest downfall to him is there's so many mouths to feed in that offense. And you question if Dallas doesn't go more run heavy now with Andy Dalton in versus Dak Prescott. I personally think Robert Tonyan is the third best option when Green Bay is fully healthy to catch the football, behind Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. Lazard's not going to be back for a while. He went to the IR. He's going to probably be back sometime in November, around Thanksgiving, I would say.
It's possible it's season ending, too. They said it was indefinite when the injury happened. So I haven't heard an update, but it's possible the end of the year.
Right. So Tunyan's now the third best option behind Jones and Devontae Adams in that offense to get the football to. And we know Devontae Adams' injury history. You're looking at a tight end that could possibly be the number one option on a possible MVP candidate quarterback's offense this year. I like Robert Tonyan's upside.
That hurt to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It hurt to say.
I'm going to cry a little bit now.
I read through it. That was a good job.
Studs and duds, boys. Let's get into them. Gage's Rage. We'll kick things off with you, starting at quarterback.
Hell yeah. My start of the week is going to be Joe. No. Scratch that.
Joe Burrow.
Cam Newton. Cam Newton came back off the COVID list right into a pretty cake matchup against the Denver Broncos. They're pretty solid against the run, so look for him to steal a couple goal line opportunities if they make it down there. And also, I don't know how much running around he'll do, so I think he's looking for those short yardage, easy scores. And I think a connection with Julian Edelman will be pretty solid if he hits the field healthy this week.
And you're done.
The week, I have Joe Burrow going up against the Indianapolis Colts. They're number one against quarterbacks for the defense. A young quarterback, I think, is proving that if you put a number one draft pick quarterback in the offense too early, sometimes you can spoil what could have been a good guy. Joe Burrow has had a pretty rough year. I think last week he got sacked a shitload. I'll just say that. And he's going up against a really tough defense. So I'll put him as my dud.
Brandon, moving on to you.
I am going to, and it hurts my heart because it's going against their team, I'm going to pick Matt Ryan. He's had a couple bad weeks here in a row. I think it's 3 bad weeks, below 13 points. But if you look at who he was going against, it was Chicago, who's ranked second against quarterback. Green Bay is 5th, and Carolina is 3rd. In the games that he was very good in, Seattle, 31st, and Dallas, 20th. So when he's playing teams that are bad against the pass, he's playing well. The Vikings are not very good against the pass. We've seen that this year. They're ranked somewhere in the low 20s right now. There's an over-under of 54 points this game, and he's averaging 300 yards a game and 2 touchdowns. I think it's a good matchup. I don't really think they're going to get the run game going, and I think that it's 54 points is a lot to put up in a game, which means that Matt Ryan is going to have to play well. So give me him as my stud of the week, and then my dud of the week is Baker Mayfield. I've never been a big Baker fan. I'm not a big Baker fan this week. He faces the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are a top 10 fantasy quarterback defense. Baker's QB 24. He probably shouldn't even be on your roster right now. With the Vegas line even at 51 points this week, it doesn't give me any faith in Baker. He's yet to throw for 250 yards in a single game, and he's failed to put up 200 yards in 3 of his last 5 starts. Stefanski loves to run the ball. They're going to have to try and do that to control the clock and win this game. I don't think Baker's going to put up his projected 16 points since he hasn't hit that once this season yet.
Going into my studs and duds, that stud, give me quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger has been on an absolute – what's up, Brandon?
I said, hi, Alyssa. She's watching.
Ben Roethlisberger, coming back from an elbow injury last year, he's been absolutely fantastic. He scored at least 22 fantasy points in all 4 games this year, and there's no reason to think he won't stay hot this week against the Browns, who have allowed multiple touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks in 4 out of 5 games, including 2 300-yard passers. My dud, who coincidentally was my stud last week, is Teddy Bridgewater. It's actually a credit to Bridgewater that he landed in this spot, which is typically reserved for must-start players who could struggle. But in the past 2 games, Bridgewater's been great with 24 fantasy points. He hit for me last week as a stud at quarterback. And against Arizona and Atlanta are his past 2 opponents. He scored at least 20 fantasy points in 3 out of 5 games this year. But he's going up against the vaunted Chicago Bears defense, who seems to be finding themselves and gave Tom Brady last week a lot of trouble on Thursday night. So give me Teddy Bridgewater as my dud. Moving into running backs, I'll kick this off. Give me Alexander Madison, who seems to be the darling of the week in the fantasy world, which gives me a little bit of trepidation, but I'm going to go with it. Madison in week 5 at Seattle, most people saw it was a primetime game, had 20 carries for 112 yards after Dalvin Cook got hurt, including 3 catches for 24 yards. However, that 113 yards rushing would look a lot nicer if it was 113. I expect him to finish as a top 3 fantasy back this week, which would give me yes, he's a top 5. He's averaged 4.7 yards per carry in his career, and Gary Kubiak's system's excellent for running backs. Zeke, Aaron Jones, and Mike Davis have all absolutely crushed Atlanta, who boasts the 26th ranked rushing defense, and I don't expect Alexander Madison to be any worse than that. At dud, give me Darrell Henderson. Sean McVay has said this week he plans to give more work to Cam Akers, and Brown will get some touches too. So you're looking at a 3-headed running back staple in Los Angeles coming into week 6. Last week, Darrell Henderson had 15 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown, along with 3 catches for 30 and a touchdown on 4 targets. But this is a tougher matchup against the 49ers. And we saw 2 weeks ago against the Giants, McVay's not afraid to go away from Henderson. After he was limited to only 9 touches in that outing. Basically, with Henderson, he's been good for you, but with the 3-headed running back or 3-headed monster at running back, be a little bit careful. That'll lead into Brandon for your studs and duds.
As we talked about that Chase Edmonds Debo deal, I like Chase Edmonds this week. Drake owners should be a little scared. Like I said, Kenyon Drake is getting 3 times the amount of carries or touches, I should say, than Chase Edmonds, and he's got less points on the season. He's not producing, and like I said, eventually they're going to have to shift that over to giving Chase more opportunities. I like his matchup this week. Let me pull it up real quick. I don't have that in front of me. He's facing Dallas this week. Dallas is 17th against the run. They're letting up 126 yards on the ground and another 3.5 catches through the air. Although that's not a lot of catches through the air, I think Chase Edmonds could see 5 or 6 targets this game, especially when Kenyon Drake has got like 6 targets on the season. I'll take the pass catching back in a game that is supposed to score 55 points. For my dud of the week, what did I pick as my dud of the week again?
Devonta Freeman.
Yes. Although Freeman's seen an uptick in the last couple of weeks, I think he's started out around like 10 carries the first week, 16 and then 17 last week. And he had a couple good weeks in a row. He's been seeing his point total go up. However, and I know it sounds bad, but he's going against the football team, right? And they're 14th ranked against the run. So they're in the top half against the run. But do you know why they're ranked that low? It's because other teams have been getting up and playing with the lead. They're actually playing pretty well against running backs. It's just that they're getting pounded against the teams that are beating them. They also have 105 first-round picks on the defensive line, and the Giants' offensive line is pitiful. They're going to get sacks. They're going to get after Daniel Jones, and I think they're going to be playing with the lead. I have the Washington football team as my upset of the week. So I think that their defensive line is going to give Devonta Freeman fits, and he's not going to have a good week. So do not start Devonta Freeman unless you want to cry on Monday.
That'll lead us to Gage's rage. I do want to give really quick a stat for Gage regarding his quarterback, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been sacked 22 times this year, and he's getting sacked on 10% of his dropbacks. So he's getting absolutely mauled.
Yeah, that's sacks and young quarterbacks does not make for a good equation.
No, it does not.
He's absolutely being hammered. That offensive line is not giving him any hands.
No.
This week for my studs and duds at running back, I got David Johnson, Houston running back, going up against Tennessee. Tennessee has a pretty solid defense, but actually not the best against the run. They're 22nd ranked against the run, so the worst 10 defense against running backs. They average quite a few yards, about 60 59 yards against the running backs, but they also they also have a few receptions and receiving yards against running backs. So with Houston, if David Johnson can't do it against Tennessee, I just don't know who he can. For my dud of the week, I'm going to go with Sexy Rexy. Usually a goal line opportunity guy going up against the number one defense against running backs in Denver. With Cam Newton coming back and possibly vulturing those goal line opportunities, I do not see Sexy Rexy being that sexy this week.
Let's not forget that James White is playing, and he's their number one pass-catching running back. So that takes away from Max Burkhead in the passing game. And then Damian Harris is playing as well.
Yes.
You saw what Harris did last week. I think he had over 100 yards. So he's their ground and pound back. So Burkhead is kind of just sitting in limbo as the number two at both their ground game and their pass game running back.
Absolutely.
Correct. Gage's Rage will lead right back into you at wide receiver.
Absolutely. So I'm going from the same matchup for both of my picks. I am going to take the homeboy Adam Thielen against the Atlanta defense. Ranked 25th against the pass. They are absolutely horrendous. This is going to be a very high-scoring game. I think there will be a lot of receivers that benefit from it, Adam Thielen being one of them. I don't know what his projection is from ESPN, but he is going to smash it. He's going to have a massive line, a lot of catches, yards, and I think a score. So give me Adam Thielen. I think Ridley on the other side of the ball will be the one doing a lot of the scoring, along with Todd Gurley running against this defense that's pretty suspect. But Mike Zimmer has shown a history against locking down Julio Jones. And I know we had the big physical back and defensive back in Xavier Rhodes before that, but I think that continues this week. Jones is also coming off of an injury. I think it was an ankle sprain or something in the legs. So I know if he gets
hamstring,
it's not necessarily the greatest pick, and it won't count. But I don't like receivers coming off injury, and I don't like receivers that have a history of being locked down.
Adam Thielen is right now the second best wide receiver in PPR formats. I think he's just behind DeAndre Hopkins.
I think he's got an opportunity to be wide receiver one this week.
Absolutely, but he is projected 17.5 points. I think he'll smash that.
Smash it over. He's got 8 for 100 easy with the score.
With 2 scores. I need 2 scores.
Cake on top.
Okay. For my stud of the week, I'm going to go with Michael Gallup the third. He might not be the third, but it's Michael Gallup, the third wide receiver in the Dallas offense. He's kind of been the ugly stepchild in the three-headed monster so far this season. We saw, obviously, Amari Cooper's getting his targets. CeeDee Lamb is stepping in and playing really well. And then that kind of leaves Gallup on the sideline. But he was a solid wide receiver last year. They had a lot of hope moving forward with him. And one of the bigger things is that I saw last week when Andy Dalton stepped in the big plays, he was targeting Michael Gallup, and Gallup was making the catches. The one way to get targets from your quarterback who's just stepping in is to make those big plays when it counts. Now, all 3 of them can make them. Don't get me wrong. But they saw out of his 11 targets or his 11 passes, 3 targets went to Lamb, 3 targets went to Cooper, 3 targets went to Gallup. So he's split this week, and I can really see him. This could be the week he steps it up. So give me Michael Gallup as my stud of the week. My dud of the week, I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry. I like his matchup a lot, actually. Pittsburgh is ranked 29th against wide receivers. I think they're letting up somewhere around 50 points a game. And the over-under is at 51 right now. So everything kind of looks good for Jarvis Landry. However, he's battling a rib injury. Sounds like he's a go this week. So it looks like he's going to be playing. I think he's cleared. But those rib injuries don't just go away after a week. He dropped some easy passes across the middle, which I think he had like 4 grabs for 80 yards maybe last week and a couple big drops. And playing scared is not a way you want to play against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is actually a pretty damn good defense. We've seen that this year. And all it takes is one hit for him to go back into kind of that passive across the middle game. So I'm not a big fan of Jarvis Landry this week, although I do like his matchup.
Leading into me with my studs and duds at wide receiver, give me Laviska Shenault as my stud. Shenault and Keelan Cole are both worth using as sleepers this week with DJ Chark banged up. Shenault has scored at least 13 PPR points in consecutive games against Cincinnati and Houston, and he's reached that mark in 3 out of 5 outings this year. Cole has scored a touchdown in 3 out of 5 games on the season as well. I like Laviska Shenault this week. He struggled a little bit last time Chark was out, but the whole Jacksonville offense did that Thursday night against Miami. Give me Laviska Shenault as my stud. My dud, Travis Fulgham. This one's, I think, picking absolute. This is easy pickings right here. Picking the cherry off the tree. Should you add Fulgham in all leagues based on his performance in Week 5 at Pittsburgh? He had 10 catches for 152 yards and a touchdown on 13 targets. Yeah, especially with Jeffrey and Jackson still banged up. But don't start Fulgham this week against the Ravens. The Ravens have allowed just 2 touchdowns to opposing receivers this year, and both were for the Chiefs. Just keep Fulgham on your bench. See what he does this week. Go from there. Moving into tight end. TJ Hawkinson's my stud this week. The Jaguars have allowed a tight end score in 3 of their past 4 games, including to Darren Fells in Week 5. Hawkinson scored in his last game in Week 4 against the New Orleans Saints, and he should have good success this week against the Jaguars. As we all know, tight ends kind of come and go with touchdowns, and Hawkinson's got a good chance at a touchdown this week. At dud, give me Rob Gronkowski. Gronkowski actually showed a pulse in Week 5 at Chicago in his first game without O.J. Howard with 3 catches for 52 yards and 6 targets. But that's what counts as a good outing for him in 2020. He's still searching for his first touchdown. It's going to be hard to trust him if Godwin and Mike Evans both come back, having Cameron Brate also steal snaps from him, who Tom Brady is very high on. The Packers also haven't allowed a tight end score this season, including with matchups against Hawkinson, Hayden Hurst, and Jared Cook. So steer clear of Rob Gronkowski. Brandino?
As my stud of the week was on, or my dud at running back, Devontae Freeman was on the Giants. I do think Evan Ingram is going to have a good week this week. Currently sitting, I think he's getting 7 targets or rush attempts a game, which is ranked 5th amongst tight ends. So he's up there in workload in total, and he's facing the Washington football team, who's 28th against the tight ends position, letting up 18 points a game. We saw last week they're trying to get him involved. He's the second best option on that offense for targets outside of Darius Slayton right now. And they got him a rushing touchdown last week. And off a holding call last week, a fake field goal pass. He caught a touchdown, called back on a penalty. They're trying to get Evan Ingram the ball. They know he's super talented. And I think they're going to try and feed him the ball again this week, especially. The only thing I don't like about this matchup is it's a low point total of like 44.5 points. So that's really the only thing that kind of deters me from Evan Ingram. Austin Hooper is my dud of the week. Hooper has not been playing well this year. He's ranked 16th in workload. He's getting about 5.4 targets or rush attempts a game. And he's going against Pittsburgh, who's ranked 6th against tight ends. 8.7 points a game. It's not a lot for a guy who hasn't been playing well. I mean, obviously in full point, he needs a couple catches for 50 yards, which is possible, but I don't like him this week. Again, Baker doesn't have a good matchup. Baker is averaging less than 15 points a game. Hooper is averaging like 8 a game, something like that. I don't like him this week. I would sit Austin Hooper.
Gauge his rage.
For my stud of the week this week, I'm going with Jonnu Smith. In standard PPR formats, he is tight end 1. I know you didn't draft him to be that, and he's performing like an absolute stud ahead of guys like Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, who is my dud of the week. But Jonnu Smith has been given opportunities to score, and he has done very well with those opportunities. Not the easiest matchup, but going against Philly, I think he takes care of business. Oh, no, sorry. He's not going against Philly. He's going against Houston. But they're middle of the road against tight ends. I think he's got a score in his pocket today.
Might add for Jonnu Smith for you is workload. So for everybody, I mentioned that a couple times. Workload is attempts plus targets a game. He's ranked number 1 with 17. Number 2, George Kittle at 10. He is by far getting the most targets a game by a tight end. I mean, it's absurd.
He is clobbering in the workload number on Shock Fantasy.
He's been the best pass catcher, period, on that offense with A.J. Brown being injured.
Even last week with A.J. Brown back, it was still Jonu's game.
I agree. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Fuck it. That last touchdown was bullshit.
So my dud of the week is Zach Ertz. He doesn't have the competition with my boy Goddard being injured, but Ertz is just off this year. I don't know if there's something lingering injury that he's not reporting or what the deal is, but he just has not performed in the matchups that have been good. He's going up against Baltimore this week. I don't trust him to make anything happen. I don't trust that offense against Baltimore. Zach Ertz is going to be my dud this week. Scott.
Pick me. His biggest downfall this year so far has been none other than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is not clicking. That offense has been bad. That's the reason why the offense isn't clicking. Carson Wentz. It's not Zach Ertz.
Does that hurt to say?
No, I'm a man of conviction. I say things. I say a lot of things. I'm bound to be wrong every now and then. It happens.
Okay.
I still overall like Carson Wentz, but that offense is just not right now.
I'm not a Carson Wentz fan. I know I went to NDSU. I never bought into the Carson Wentz bandwagon like you boys did. Yeah, there's a lot of other quarterbacks I'd taken, but this year it's just not clicking for Philly.
Philly's just not good this year. That's okay. It happens sometimes.
Do you think that Zach Ertz could get 6 grabs for 40 yards?
He could, but he won't.
You know, like,
Bank on him too if he will not.
Yeah, it's possible. He's going to be on the field, but he won't.
It could be a hamstring. There could be a lingering something that's going on. But even the blocking for the running backs has not been great from Ertz this year. Maybe it's age, like I've been saying. I was saying it's the Goddard bandwagon, and I think if he was healthy, he'd be proving me right now.
I'm just saying over the last 3 weeks, Zach Ertz has outscored Dallas Goddard.
That's true. That's fact.
It's not very tough. I think, I've tied Goddard.
Not much, but it has. It might be like 10 points.
Hey, I've almost outscored Dallas Goddard, okay?
Yeah, that's true, too.
And I'm here on Sundays.
That's true, too.
So one thing to say about Gage's Jonnu Smith and Zach Ertz, I would probably sit Jonnu Smith and start Zach Ertz based on his record. His picks have been almost the exact opposite of what he's looking for.
And he hit 60%.
Let's just give Star Lamar. He texted us. These are his studs and duds of the week. Stud at quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick facing the Jets. Dud, Drew Lock facing the Patriots. Stud at wide receiver.
Good choice.
Kenny Golladay going up against Jacksonville, and his dud is Will Fuller going against Tennessee. Stud at running back, Kenyon Drake against Dallas. His dud is Kareem Hunt against Pittsburgh. And his stud at tight ends are Mark Andrews going against Philadelphia and Austin Hooper going against Pittsburgh.
Brandon, you had a blog post article that is now live, I believe.
It is now live. Worked very long and hard on it. If you guys are looking for start sits for quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, I put together 6 starts, 6 sits at each position. Getting all tongue-tied and excited about my blog post. You guys should go check it out. It's there's a lot of detail in it at the front end. As we get towards the back end, it fades into more like just how I feel in general. You could tell that it got a little long-winded on my writing, and I didn't put as many stats in there, but I did do the research. It's worth checking out. Like I said, there's 6 at each position, start and sit. And it's on officialbudhole.com. The link will be posted on Facebook as soon as we finish this. Check it out. Win your league this week, just like I'm going to beat Star Lamar.
And get strapped in for the upcoming podcast this week. We will be breaking down everything fantasy from week 6. That podcast will be dropping Monday night. Look to stream it at work Tuesday sometime. And then our NFL episode where we get into 3 words or less for every single game is going to be posted on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m.
And then we dip into the fun, right? Movie review?
Followed by the Budhole movie review and Budhole After Dark, which will be posted respectively Thursday at 11 a.m. for the movie review and Friday morning at 11 a.m. Budhole After Dark with a new intro that we workshopped last night.
It's gold. It is absolutely gold.
I couldn't even fake play it for Paige last night because she was freaking out. She's like, I don't want to hear it right now. Maybe in the morning, but do not play it for me right now. Okay.
So that debut of that intro is going to lead us into our next serial killer, John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. Check out the Budhole this week. We got new intros across the board for the entire show. New intros, new outros, new segment lead-ins. We did a lot of work last night. We drank a lot of Celsius last night, too. Take a look behind Brandon. Yeah. The Celsius went down like waters.
They were nice. Coors Light hits the spot.
But thank you guys for checking out the live stream mailbag. Like we said, check us out on all the social media platforms. They can all be found at officialbudhole.com, including our blog posts and our podcast. So go there, check it all out. Thank you so much for the support. And with that being said, thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.